Hello and welcome to PiscesMoon Astrology. I'm your astrologer, Kate Leonard, and I'm excited to explore the stars with you. Hi everyone, this is episode 3. I can't believe it. I'm really excited to talk to you this week. We're going to be talking about the week of August 11th through August 17th. Let's just jump right into it. We're going to be talking about fighting for noble causes and winning them. But before we get into that, we have to acknowledge that we're starting the week still in that Mercury retrograde energy. And I don't know how it's been hitting all of you, but boy howdy, has my technology been glitching in about every way imaginable. It started while I was recording episode 2, and it has continued throughout the whole week. So I hope your tech is still with you. However, I do want to say that for me, it's also really been working well for revising some projects that I've been working on. So, I thought it was going to have a good spin to it as well. And for me, at least it has. I hope it has for you too. Please put below in the comments what kind of Mercury retrograde you're having. But let's get into the big stuff for this week. But do keep in mind, everything happening this week is happening while Mercury's retrograding. So that sense of rethinking and redoing all of the words, that's going to be kind of behind the scenes. And the way this retrograde has been working for you is probably going to keep going. So nothing happens in a vacuum in the cosmos, right? Okay, let me give you the dates first. The first date that we're going to be talking about is August 14th. That's the day that Mars is going to conjunct Jupiter in Gemini, a Mercury-ruled sign. So that retrograding Mercury has a lot to do with this energy. And then the very next day on 8/15, Mars is going to go into an exact square with Saturn, who's retrograding in Pisces. So before we even get into the specifics, and I am going to take you kind of chronologically through this a little bit, but I do want you to keep in mind that when we talk about an aspect going direct, we're talking about the two planets occupying the exact same degree in whatever sign they're in. In the case of Mars and Jupiter, they're in the same sign and they're forming a conjunction. Mars and Saturn will be in different signs making that square, but they'll be at the exact degree in those signs. It happens to be 17 degrees. But really, we're feeling it within that 3-degree orb, okay? So with that in mind, even though Jupiter next week is going to square Saturn in that exact degree, the Mars-Jupiter conjunction, we're going to look at that as squaring Saturn. It's going to be Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn all kind of mushing together at the same time. Technically, Jupiter will be 1 degree away from exact, but you know what? We're going to be feeling it like Jupiter is also squaring Saturn. Does that make sense? If not, leave it in the comments and I will try to answer your questions, okay? If you've worked with me at all or listened to anything that I've done or read my Substack, and if you don't, please do, Pisces Moon. Mars can either show up as the noble warrior. He represents passion and assertiveness and initiation and all of those really dynamic, big energies. He's fiery, right? He wants to do things and get things done. So he's got that, fighting for a cause, noble warrior side to him. He can also show up as kind of like a psycho killer, really. When he's not happy, when he's by, an off planet or in a house that's really, really uncomfortable to him, he can get nasty. Mars also rules stuff like stabbing, cutting, blood, all of aggression rather than assertiveness. So, it really depends on the situation, which Mars you're going to see. Jupiter is known as the greater benefic, the luckiest planet in the sky, and that's mostly true. I have some issues with that. There are some times when Jupiter's not so lucky, but in general, yes, Jupiter's a really positive planet. He represents expansion and adventure. He represents spiritual knowledge, wisdom, and yes, he can very often just bring good luck. So the combination of Mars, Jupiter during this conjunction is excellent. We will get the best of Mars. We will get the noble warrior. And Jupiter is all about vision, right? Expansive vision. So this is going to be the kind of energy that lets us go out and fight the good fight, get involved with a cause and add energy and fire and passion to fighting for that cause. And so I think it's really brilliant. And I think it's really interesting that this is coming up during American elections as well, right? There are certainly causes that are up to be fought for right now, but there always are, it doesn't have to be political. You can fight for your family. You can fight for your independence. You can fight for your self-definition. I mean, there are all kinds of noble causes. It doesn't have to be party politics, right? So the way to think about this is really look to see which house is this hitting in your natal chart. So look at your natal chart. If you don't have one, there are plenty of places online that you can get them for free. I use whole sign houses, but you can draw up your chart however you want to do that. Look at where Gemini, what house is it in? If it's in the second house, you could be fighting for financial independence. The 10th house, fighting for a position at work or for a project that you believe in. The 5th house, you could be fighting for your children, fighting for your sexual identity. You could be fighting for a creative project. The 1st house, fighting for yourself, being your own hero. So when I say noble cause or fighting for a cause, define that broadly and look to see what house is being impacted. That will give you a big hint on what you might be fighting for. Anyway, I think it's wonderful energy. I think it's brilliant. Jupiter also, because it does have that spiritual component, Jupiter rules Pisces and Sagittarius. So if you know anything about those two signs, think about what they represent: adventure, spirituality, throwing yourself into a spiritual quest in a very passionate way. That's how that could play out as well. I just really love this energy. And the more you think about it, the more kind of profound it gets, right? So that's going to be with us all week. Just because it's perfecting on August 14th, it's with us all week. So I think it's a really, really brilliant time. And remember that warrior Mars isn't the only version of Mars. Mars represents passion. Jupiter rules expansion. Some of us are going to find a new level of passion for something we care about. A romantic partner, an art project, all of those things I've already mentioned. Look at what house Gemini is in. Gemini is also about communication in all of its forms, right? Writing, speaking, content creation. What I'm doing right now is a very Gemini kind of thing, right? Having heart-to-heart talks with people. Any form of communication is Gemini, right? Falls into Gemini's domain. And Mars is going to bring the passion to it. As I said, because of Jupiter, I think this won't be passion like I'm going to yell at you really loud. I'm pretty convinced that this is going to be passionate communications. And this may be in the bedroom, the boardroom, the art room, the schoolhouse. This could be anywhere, any kind of communication that you're involved with, but something that you care deeply about. You may find that you're just really needing to have your voice heard. That's that Gemini piece. And now we're going to go back to Mercury retrograde. Sorry. A little thing. Remember this week that while it is a time when we're going to want to be heard, we're going to want to communicate from our hearts, right? Our real truth. Mercury is retrograding, and so it may be challenging. We may run up against some frustrations in this area where we have to communicate and then clarify. So just hang with that. I don't think that's going to be the biggest issue. The Mars-Jupiter conjunction is very, very strong. So I don't think Mercury retrograde has the power to mess that up. And Mercury's not retrograding in Gemini, thank goodness for that. But it's still out there. So I just want you to be aware that while you're feeling very passionate and you want to get that writing down, or you want to record your podcast, or, have the heart-to-heart with your beloved, whatever that thing is, don't beat yourself up or worry about it or feel too frustrated if you get a little bit of that retrograde thing going on and you have to go back in and explain or clarify or redo. That could happen. I don't think it's going to be bad. I would tell you if I did. I don't think it's going to be super bad. Another thing that the retrograde makes me think of is these causes that we're going to be getting involved in, these noble fights that we're going to fight and win. Jupiter will help us win, right? So I forgot to say that earlier. We're going to fight the noble fight and we're going to win it. But these fights may be old fights. That may be how Mercury shows up here, right? The Mercury retrograde. It may be that we go back to a cause. I'm old. I didn't think that we would ever be fighting for reproductive rights again, ever, right? I did the whole Roe v. Wade thing, right? I was around for all of that kind of stuff, and I didn't think we were going to be fighting those fights anymore. And yet here we are. So don't be surprised if it's something like that it's a cause you not once believed in, but were once more actively involved in. And now you're feeling called to jump back in and get back into the ring and, duke it out for the last time. That's very, very possible here. And again, it doesn't have to be about politics. It could be any kind of thing. Like you made some changes at work and you thought they were really as far as things needed to go and everything was perfectly in place. And now you have to go back in and fight for a next level or something like that. So it doesn't have to be political. It's just easy right now to draw examples from that arena. So you may find, and the other thing you may find is that reunions and reconciliations are possible. I'm really excited about this aspect too. Gemini is known as the social butterfly, right, of the zodiac. That's Gemini. And with Mercury retrograde, that redo thing, we may have a renewed desire, because that's very Mars, right? We may have a renewed desire to communicate with somebody that we haven't in a while, whether that's just someone we've lost touch with, someone we've had a falling out with, whatever that is, some kind of reunion or reconciliation is very, very positive. And Mars will give that courage. Those people that you'd love to talk to again, but you've let too much time go by, or the last time you spoke was kind of too much. Those times, and you're like, I would really love it if we could patch things up, but honestly, I'm scared, or I don't have it in me, or, oh my gosh, Mars will be like, I got this, right? Mars is courage. It's like, well, all right, I may get shut down. That person may tell me what the heck? What are you thinking? Coming back around, trying to talk to me again? I promise you, I don't think that's how it'll go. But let's say that's your fear. Mars is going to be like, bring it, right? Bring it. I can face this. I'm going to take this on. Okay. So moving on, because as I said, we've got a lot going on. That's August 14th, that Mars-Jupiter conjunction. Then on August 15th, we get Mars going into the perfect square, 17 degrees, with Saturn, and this is quite a thing, all right? And Saturn's also retrograde, by the way, but it doesn't impact him quite as much as it does Mercury. So these are the two malefic planets. According to ancient astrology, Mars was the lesser malefic and Saturn was the greater malefic, right? So we've got them interacting, the two bad guys, even though I don't agree that they're bad. I don't. We all have Mars and Saturn. Mars and Saturn each rule two signs of the zodiac, and I just don't see them as bad. But they can be more like hardcore, right? Or they're less fun than, say, Venus and Jupiter, right? And that's okay, because all of life isn't fun. Sometimes we need those harder hitting planets to really make progress. But nevertheless, the ancient astrologers did call them the greater and lesser malefics. And they're making a square, which is a tense angle. That's a 90-degree angle from each other. When there's a square involved, there's some kind of negotiation that needs to happen. I actually think this is going to play out well too, and I swear to you, I am not just the Pollyanna of the astrology world. I will tell you some bad stuff, but I honestly have been seeing these quote-unquote difficult aspects as kind of being positive recently. So we've got Mars, which is fire and energy and initiation. Mars wants to go, 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 now. And we've got Saturn. So Mars is fiery. Saturn is cold, right? Saturn is cold. Mars rules youth and that youthful initiation. Saturn rules old age, but he also rules that stick to it. Saturn's the goat who climbs to the mountain peak, right? He's the one who will take every step necessary and not finish till he reaches the top of the mountain. He'll get that stuff done, yeah? And he'll, no matter what work it takes, he'll get it done. Mars doesn't have that. Mars will start it. Mars will bring the fire. He's got that initiation thing, but not good. No, not good at all about finishing things. No. Want stuff now. And if it's going to take a long time and any kind of planning and slow, steady movement forward, forget Mars. He's not your guy. Saturn's your guy. So while that square aspect, which is tense, is going to mean they have to do a little bit of, jostling around, a little bit of push-pull, right? And a little bit of struggle to get it to work out. Ultimately, they're the dynamic duo, right? They're the ones who are like, I've got the fire to initiate this. And the other one like, yeah, and I've got the will and the determination to make it to the top. I think this is cool. I'm liking it. Now, another thing that's super good about this, who rules Pisces? I know a lot of you people who listen to modern astrology think it's Neptune. No, not Neptune. Rulerships are an ancient technique, and they didn't know about Neptune. Jupiter rules Pisces. Who's conjunct with Mars? Jupiter, right? Saturn is traveling through the kingdom of Jupiter, which means Jupiter is responsible for making Saturn sort of welcome as he passes through the kingdom. So again, I'm seeing the positive in all of this, right? Jupiter is going to bring that just kind of stamp of positivity to everything happening. I mean, this sounds like a recipe for success to me. I am not seeing the bad thing here, although there's still some stuff that I want us to consider. I really do think this is going to be good, and I think that overall, even though with the malefics involved and the square involved, you might be hearing from some people that this is going to be all doom and gloom. I really don't think so with Jupiter involved. But on the other hand, there are those indicators, the malefics, the tense aspect, all the stuff, right? Mercury retrograde. So I do want to give you the heads up that there may be frustrating points in all of this, right? There may be frustration involved as we've got the fire and the cold of Mars and Saturn, the Mercury retrograde, there could be times while we're negotiating this whole winning victory thing that I think we're going to get to, there could be times that when we're frustrated as hell, let's just say it, right? There could be times when we really just kind of had enough for a minute. And I wanted to give you that, not warning, but that heads up, right? That whole forewarned is forearmed, or however that saying goes, right? So you may be feeling some frustration. You may have to deal with some protests. You may be having some outburst. Other people may be having outbursts, or whatever it is that comes up. What I want you to keep in mind is that this may come up, right? Just know that these things may happen during whatever this noble cause is you're fighting for, or whatever this passion project you're working on. Just know that that's there. Sometimes if you already know it going in, it's a little bit easier to handle it when it actually comes up. And the other thing that I would say about that is expect that you may have to clarify some things. Expect some miscommunications that you have to iron out. I mean, even possibly with Mars involved, possibly expect some arguments that you may have to apologize for, or that you may have to accept someone's apology for. Remember, those people that are pissing you off, they're under the same cosmos that the rest of us are under, right? And so cut them some slack, maybe not in the moment. You can go ahead and fight it out a little bit if you want. Mars will help you with that. But then cut them some slack and just let it go. Right? That's what I'm really, I think that's probably my best advice this week for the kind of little glitches that are going to come up along the way. In the moment, you may need to react to them. We all are going to be doing this, right? We may need to react, huff and puff a little bit, stomp around the room a little bit, but don't punch too many holes in too many walls. And when it passes, let it pass. Just let it go. Next week, we're going to be dealing with a lot of similar energy. Jupiter, the greater benefic, is going to go into his perfect square with Saturn. I don't think that's going to be any really big change, honestly, because we're already feeling that this week. The thing that is going to change is Venus is going to come into the picture for a little while. And so we're going to have the greater and lesser benefic on the scene. And so I do think it's going to be an interesting kind of 2-week cycle that we're dealing with. So I'm really liking this. I don't think it's going to be smooth sailing, but in general, I'm really liking it. And I think on the other end of it, we're all going to come out victorious in one way or another. So that's what I've got for this week, and a little preview into next week as well. I am so grateful for you being here. I honestly can't tell you how grateful I am. And I did want to ask you if you would please to help my algorithm along. And also, just because, I would love it if you would subscribe to this podcast. That would make me so happy. And also share it, do all the things. And most importantly, will you please, please, please leave me some comments. I have to admit right now that I'm still trying to figure out how to read the comments. But leave me some comments. And I really want to know what you want to know. Do you want more of the politics? I would do those as extra separate episodes. I'm going to always do the basic cosmic, what I see as the biggest cosmic influences for the week. But I can certainly put out additional kind of mini episodes on the astrology of the candidates. I can do medical astrology. We could have little astrological tutorials. Just let me know what you want. So now go out and seize the energies of the stars. This is my wish for you always. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'll see you next week. Or I'll talk to you next week. Bye.